Hi, welcome to Gear Talk, a Noria podcast. I'll be your host, Wes Cash. Here at Gear Talk, we are connecting reliability professionals with reliable information. I'm excited we have Amy Moore with us today, and we're going to be talking about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, and it's going to be talking the trades versus college degrees, and basically where are we sitting as a country? Where are we sitting in the industrial market and everything else? So, Amy, one of the goals of this podcast is for our listeners and our viewers to understand a little bit of the individual. So, if you don't mind giving a little introduction about yourself, that'd be great.
Okay. Well, again, my name's Amy Moore. I'm pretty new to Tulsa, and I have spent the last 10 years in education. I started out, some people don't know, and it's kind of crazy being a dean now, that I got my GED out of high school. So I did not graduate high school, but I'm about 6 months away from a doctorate. So anybody can make that leap if they want to. You know, education is important, but there's lots of different paths to get to where you want to be.
Absolutely.
So I started out working in a factory.
Okay.
The factory changed and moved, and I lost my job. And I thought, what am I going to do? And my aunt said, you'll go to nursing school. And there was a trade school about 30 minutes away that you could get your LPN in 12 months. And I signed up, became a nurse, and I've just kept going from there. You know, as I've overlapped my experience with my education, I've increased my degrees, but that's only because I've steered towards education. I would have never had to have an advanced degree to make good money in my field.
No, that makes complete sense. And let's talk about a little bit of your experience, because now, you know, dean of academic affairs, all of that you're doing. So you're having these discussions with maybe younger adults or maybe even older adults, right? That are either reinventing themselves or trying to get established somewhere in a career. What do those conversations usually look like? How do they typically start? And how do you sell them on an idea of, hey, let's learn a trade, let's learn a skill or something like that that's going to make you useful?
We spend a lot of time with older adults transitioning out of maybe a field that's no longer making them good money, or fields are changing, right? So maybe they've worked in an industry where they're no longer needed, or things are automated and things of that nature. So there's a lot of grants and funds that will take those people and say, let's retrain you into a field that you can make money. And tech schools pick up a lot of those students. I would say the average, actually the last institution I was at, I did statistics, and over 40% of our students were over the age of 35.
Really?
They wanted that quick in, give me exactly what I need, let me use my hands to learn and get back to work, offering classes at night or in the afternoon that worked better for them.
Absolutely.
We did have what we call traditional students, which are directly out of high school.
Sure.
And those, what do we like to call them? Media natives, right?
Okay.
So the ones that know how to use all the Canvas and the internet and everything that come in, and they benefit as well, because who doesn't want to learn your trade, get your certificate, diploma, degree, or whatever you're going to get from that, and be able to make money in 12 to 18 months.
Sure. Now, that's on the student side. What about the employer side? Because I'm sure you interface with employers, maybe looking for people. What are they typically looking for? What do you hear?
They are looking for people who are responsible and have good attendance. And I know that sounds crazy, but the most thing I've heard from employers, and we do what we call a program advisory committee. So this may be a little bit expanded on the topic, but if you're going to a small trade school, a lot of the accreditors that are used for those types of schools actually require that. So they say, if you're going to offer, and let me just pick a program, HVAC.
Okay.
Right. Everybody knows what HVAC is, right? So if
I did HVAC through college,
right,
so this works.
Heating, ventilation, air conditioning, right? So if you're going to offer HVAC for 9 months to a set of people in a certain industry in Tulsa, you have to prove and show that you're meeting the standards of the industry that's in that area, and that there's jobs, right? So you don't just get to enroll students, you have to provide or prove placement. At the end.
Right? Yeah, there is a demand.
You have to prove that demand, because if your placement falls below a percentage, then you can no longer offer that program in that area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the creditors will say, done. Like, you can't prove to us that the money that you're charging for the student to go through this program is going to benefit them in the end. So that's some fail safes that have been put in place.
I want to take a second to talk about Reliable Plant Conference. This is actually our 25th Reliable Plant Conference. It is going to be held at the Caribe Royale Resort in Orlando, Florida, July 31st through August 3rd. Please come and join us for workshops, speaker sessions, keynotes. We have an exhibit hall with over 100 exhibitors in it to find the solutions that you need to improve your reliability program, your lubrication program, and to network with your peers. Learn from them. Understand what solutions they use to improve their program. Come and learn from industry experts, from thought leaders, from people that are innovating in their reliability programs. And we want to see you there. Remember, July 31st through August 3rd. And of course, you can go to conference.reliableplant.com for more information. That's really good. I mean, obviously, we want these people to go out and get employment and build careers. I'll tell you from my experience, because I'm working with mostly industrial facilities and all through the United States, even up into Canada. And this has been, the last couple of years anyway. People are retiring at a high rate. We don't have the people to backfill some of these positions, and the people that are getting backfilled may not have the background or any training or education. So they're actually offering paying for some of these trade schools. So what are you seeing in terms of maybe enrollment or maybe pull from the industry to get more and more people, qualified people out there?
So when I say in program advisory committees, actually. In hiring bodies or people in the industry in that field meet on those campuses annually. And that's a requirement. So when they're there, they're reviewing, what are our students learning? What are the equipment are they training on? And giving us feedback on what we need to do better to make them more readily hireable once they've graduated, right?
Yeah.
And one of the highest points that we're constantly hearing is professionalism.
Sure.
And learning, how showing up on time all the time. And the biggest thing that, and I know it sounds crazy to be teaching somebody those things in a trade school, but is how to put your cell phone down.
I gotcha.
Right? How, to communicate in an effective manner, showing up dressed appropriately for your trade, even in a uniform. So when those students start class, they're expected to show up like they're already a professional in that field. And I've worked for 3 industries now and campuses that spread all the way into Canada. And almost every one I've worked for, we hear that same thing. Yeah. It's great. You want to learn and use your hands and get out there and make good money. But if you don't know how to present yourself and how to speak and how to mitigate conflict and show up on time, put your cell phone down, those types of things are what's keeping people from being hireable. Sure. It's not the actual skill. It's their, even their nonverbal communication that's keeping them from being hired.
No, I mean, that makes complete sense because there is an expectation. I want to ask you this question just because this tends to rear its head. Working in a factory or an industrial facility is dirty, it's dark, it's something that's a dead-end job or anything else. How would you respond?
That they feel like it's a dead-end job?
Sure.
I would say that usually when people are going to work in big factories and industry, you have to level the benefits of insurance and retirement and time off and all of those things that are going to be able to be offered to you at a bigger industry than maybe even going to work for some 2 people that own an HVAC.
Sure.
I started out there, and honestly, even going back, I almost became a maintenance person. Yeah. At the age of 19, and I felt like it was steady work. I got to use my hands. I was active throughout the day. And there's a lot to be said about completing a project and going home and feeling like you've done something.
Sure.
Today I sit in the office and review transfers of credit and look at people's, and there's days that I go home and I'm just like, man, I don't feel like I've accomplished anything.
What did I do?
Right? Yeah. But there is something to be said about doing something and completing that task and going home and feeling satisfied about it.
And usually there's, like you said, opportunity within those bigger organizations. I find your story just absolutely fascinating, right? Of working in a factory, GED, all the way up to a doctorate. We're going to call you doctor at this point because you're close enough,
I'm
right?
Called ABD, all but dissertation.
All but ABD, I like that. So, I mean, why do you use your story, or how would your story be so impactful to someone else that may be saying, I don't know what I want to do with my life? How could we get someone from, on the sidelines into the game, in industry or something like that?
I've seen a lot of students that have come through and they've worked in fast food, or they've, done just the janitorial, or, and not to say anything derogatory, because that's everything's needed, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And,
like, work is noble,
and CNA or something of that nature, and they feel like I've waited too long and that's not something I can do, or I've been out of school for so many years, how can I make that work? I'm not going to understand how to do this. I can show them, like I said, I'm literally, if you want to get down in the dirt about it, I'm a high school dropout. I literally dropped out of high school, but then I made that decision to, I'm going to have this to go to the next level. And I've always said I love my husband a lot, but I don't need him.
Okay.
And I joke with him about that too. I'm like, I don't have to have anybody take care of me. And that was always my driving force.
Okay.
And so when I see people like that, I'm like, don't you want that like independence of knowing, that what I have, that certificate, even like my nursing license is literally a certificate. It's a diploma. It's not even a degree.
Sure.
Like when I went to go back for school, they were like, you don't even have an associate's degree.
Right.
This is just a certificate. But I'm like, this certificate, now can make me $45 an hour.
Yeah. Golden ticket is really kind of what it is.
I renewed my nursing license yesterday.
Yeah.
And I don't even work in nursing anymore, because no matter what happens with my doctorate, my bachelor's, my master's, it doesn't matter. If I don't have a job, I can always go back and work as that nurse.
Sure.
And I can always take care of myself.
And you mentioned your husband. We talked a little bit before this. You talked about welding, right? I mean, so he is applying himself into a trade as well.
Yeah. He was a helper. He worked on the road, a job you don't require any kind of experience to get into, and loved it. Loves working with his hands. He actually works for the city of Broken Arrow outside now, but he went to school for welding, and for many, many years, he was the one, that took care of the family, but he was never home. But he can make, more in 6 months than I can make in a year, on his welding.
There's so many jobs like that. My dad was a maintenance technician and maintenance foreman for a packing plant up in Dodge City, Kansas. And he provided for our family doing this. And of course, there was mobility within that job because, you start as a technician, foreman, then lead everything else of that nature. And I think it's important, for that people take that step and get in there and not be afraid of it. Now, there's obviously programs out there that can help, prepare you for that step. And I'm hearing you say, timeliness, punctuality, kind of professional presence almost with that. I mean, is this something that, comes with age, or is this something that, how do you instruct that, I guess, in a school?
We actually have classes, and every college has a different name for it, but like critical thinking or career development. Okay. Or we're actually teaching those things and talking about it, because if you think about, and I'll use this one student as an example. He was in his late 50s. And I really don't remember exactly what he did. He worked in a factory of some sort, so he had a good mechanical background. Come to school, finish his program, straight A's, perfect attendance, like all of these things, just should be ready for success. But that thought of having to interview, filling applications out online, you can't think about today. If you were to go to apply for a job, can you walk into somewhere and apply for a job?
Probably. I mean,
not very many places.
Everything is online, I suppose, at this point.
And even most big companies or industry, or even the smaller, like HVAC, I keep picking on that one, but even those guys are going to say, okay, great, I'd love to hire you, but go back online and fill this out, or send me this online. So that,
email me something,
so that career development or that critical thinking classes are teaching people or even actually physically assisting them with filling out those resumes or creating the resumes, filling out those job applications to get that and kind of gapping that bridge and connecting them with employers, because I never imagined it would be an issue, but it really is.
You can imagine, because they are going to be coming in from all walks of life and everything else. Let's fast forward a little bit. Maybe in the next decade or so. How do you think we are going to backfill so many positions? I read one study that said it is by 2035, we'll be in the need of 2.2 million people in skilled trades. How do we close that gap? That's a huge gap.
I don't think the younger generation are really understanding the amount of income and stability they can receive from a trade.
Yeah.
So I read yesterday that by 2025, and that's what, 2 years from now, that there's
Yeah.
going to be a gap of over 600,000 airplane mechanics that are going to be needed.
Just airplane mechanics. We're talking one industry.
Just airplane mechanics. And, you know, I can tell you that employers every day are trying to recruit students before they've even graduated. There's programs out there that if you want to be an airplane mechanic, that they will give you seniority in their company from the day you start school. So like you can go and sign up.
Backdated.
Yes,
almost.
their seniority starts the day they start a program. That's not even saying they're going to be good to complete it. So they need them that bad.
They come in with benefits and everything else from day one because they've now quote unquote worked for.
Yeah.
I
so
mean,
when
maybe
they
a couple
graduate,
years. Who knows?
Yeah, they will be like that seniority number of how many people's quit. They will receive their benefits from that. Now, granted, they don't get to using their benefits until they graduate and start working for the company, but their seniority starts day one. You know, there's a company that I met with yesterday that was offering brand new graduates straight out of school to sign with them 6 weeks before they graduated, $7,000 sign-on bonus and a $5,000 reload bonus, and a choice of 6 different bases they could go to. I mean,
Really?
They could literally write their own ticket, but there was maybe 30 people there.
Really?
For that. So
is that a function of marketing, or is that a function of how do we get more people to know that some of these programs exist and to be excited about it? I mean, what are you doing to make it more well known?
You know, every school that I've worked for does a lot of open house outreach. Have employers come, you know, to the campus at the same time they're inviting students in and parents in, going to the high schools, you know, working with adult education.
Sure.
Right. Going there and people that are getting their GED or maybe even unemployment offices. Mm-hmm. Too, you know, so here's a chance for you to be retrained into another field. I honestly can't wrap my mind around it. I'm honestly trying to get my husband to go back to school again because I'm like, this is crazy. The need is so huge. Just to have that stability to know that I'm going to have I can go anywhere I want.
It's so portable, right? Mm-hmm. When you I mean, I'm going to call it own a trade, right? But I mean, when you have the ability to do that, I mean, it is portable down the road. Nursing, a great example, right? We saw all of this through the pandemic of how much of a need there was and how mobile some of those people became of going to hotspots or anything else that's needed. I couldn't agree with you more because different industries we service, right? There's an economics impact, of course. I mean, we're in Oklahoma, right? Oil and gas, right? There's kind of boom and bust type things. So there are layoffs, but you see some of the people that learn something in one industry, it is incredibly transferable to other industries. Someone that's been working in an oil rig or maybe in the oil fields in some way, getting into a paper mill or something that isn't maybe a little bit more of a stable process or have longevity in their relationship with the employer at that point. There comes with that a lot of benefits. Yeah, retirement package, good insurance, everything like that. And it seems like, you know, what I hear in the news and everything is we're such a gig economy, right? Someone who just wants to do something for a couple weeks, I guess. I don't know what that actually looks like. I've been at Noria now for 12 years. So, I mean, I guess I don't necessarily understand what this whole gig economy thing looks like. Do you see that quite a bit in your world as well?
Yeah, I have. I've seen it a lot in nursing. I've seen it a lot in, you know, aero maintenance. I've seen it in what's happening is that there's such a shortage that you're so easily picked off to take somewhere else.
Okay.
You know, and people are so easily swayed by that number, you know, oh, I'm going to leave this job I've been at 6 months because this place is offering me $10 more an hour. But people aren't gaining that seniority. They don't take benefits into, you know, factor of those types of things. You know, just to go back to airplane mechanic, you know, they could write their own ticket. You know, there are 3 different industries were, you know, meeting with students over a month period of time, and each one had a bigger package. The last guy was like, we just went to $36 an hour, but by next month we could be at $45 if you'll sign a contract with us telling us you'll work with us when you're done.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, personally, I feel like that the move is because everybody's trying to offer something bigger just to stay functioning because there is such a shortage.
Yeah. And Tulsa, our biggest employers are in the aerospace field, right? So, I mean, obviously people are always looking for good people in that aspect of things. Now, if we're going to get into it, and I mean, you had, one big message that you wanted to get across as we're sitting in here and using kind of Nori as a platform, what would you think that'd be? What would we roll this conversation up to be?
I just feel like, there's always, there's good to be said about both, going to tech school and going to a 4-year institution, right? The growth in the relationships that you develop in a 4-year institution is what you're looking at. That's a networking. It's a long term, right? Mm-hmm. But that's not for everybody. And we really got to understand that you can physically go somewhere, hands-on, be trained within 12 months and be making, paying a fifth of what you'd pay for that 4-year, right? And be making money for that whole period of time. Yes. So you got to look at that cost benefit analysis.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Just think about it. Even if it's going to a trade first, like I did, mm-hmm. that paved my way and paid my way to have all of my advanced degrees. Mm-hmm. So that diploma has paid for everything I have up to my doctorate. Absolutely. So why not look into filling those employment gaps, getting that diploma, going to school for 12 months, and then being able to work and provide for yourself and not be in $100,000 debt in 6 years' time.
That's right.
I mean, there's a lot of people that are in a lot of debt for school.
And maybe a degree that doesn't quite give you the opportunity to pay back some of that money as well.
Yeah. My husband went to school for, I think it was 10 months. By the time he was done, it was paid for in 6 months. Me, I'm going to be paying for it when I die.
the doctorate.
It's never going away. But that was a choice I made, right?
Sure.
I had this choice I made, but...
it's not to disparage that by any means.
No, it is not, because, I chose a path, and my path required me to have that degree. So, but like I said before, I could leave this job today and I could have a good paying job tomorrow on my diploma that I got 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Amy, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you'll come back, because there's a lot more to unpack on this topic. And like I said, to me, this is one of my passions as well, because I want to enable people to do good work. And good work comes at the management level. It comes at the floor level. It comes at the executive level. And there's different reasons for all of this. Trades is a huge portion. I want to make sure that we have skilled people in skilled trades, that they're taken care of, everything else. So we'll get back. We'll circle back with you, because I would love to talk more about this.
Okay, thank you. It was great to be here.
Oh, absolutely. All right. So thank you for joining in on Gear Talk. If you have any suggestions, comments, please email us at podcast@nori.com. But we will be looking forward to joining you again soon.